legacies of the conquest, discovery, conquest.
Okay, so my article talked about how historical traditions play a big role in shaping Latin America's current situation, and especially its development. Today in Latin America, there's extended poverty and marginalization, social exclusion, restricted autonomy, and lack of stability. And all of these are on some level a result of historic tradition and precedent, especially the conquest and colonization of Latin America by the Spanish and Portuguese.
We use this concept of colonization. How we use in this reading this concept?
Well, it mostly,
as exploitation, control.
I think it's mostly control. I'm not quite sure.
Because there are another facts. For example, with the colonization came at the same time with the exploitation and many things came new vegetables. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was actually going to talk about that in a little while, but yeah, that's true. Yeah. And the article also discusses how contemporary terms such as development were not really used at the time of the conquest. So in the present, it's necessary for the reader just to inform himself and be aware of the facts before trying to enter a discussion. So the second part of the article talks about Iberian discovery and conquest and what were the characteristics of the conquest. One of the main characteristics were that Iberian societies had strong convictions that their culture was superior, and Christianity was seen as the pinnacle of civilization. And from initial colonization, the monarchies really wanted complete political and cultural dominance, and minorities weren't tolerated at all, like everyone was forced to be Christian. And another main point was that the monarchies also really wanted consolidation because the distance between their home countries and the colonies was problematic. And the only way to deal with this was through consolidating and having tight control through a strong centralized government. Let's see. So the third part just goes into the overall consequences of colonization. And like Patricio was saying, while there were many negative consequences like illness and slavery and abuse, there was also it also promoted diffusion of European products like vegetables and animals, and it enriched the diets of the people in the colonies. And it also led to the creation of a bureaucratic administrative apparatus, which allowed, like I was saying earlier, for tight control that kind of affected every part of colonial life, like culture and religion, and cities also created to control, were also created to control the dispersion of population. And structures that resembled European political systems were also formed. So the overall significance of this is that all of this work illustrates a deeper objective than simply exploitation. And what was put in place by the conquest was also about diffusion of culture in European ways and conversion to Christianity. So this historical legacy is really important because it established a 500-year legacy that's still in place today in government, culture, and everything.
Do you understand why there were no terms like development in these times? In these times, the people didn't use the word development because there were no notions for development because in these societies there were not the idea of progress for the future. They had another idea. Oh, thank you. Then we go to the Enlightenment. Enlightenment.
I actually printed out my outline, so if you guys just want to each take 1, 2, and 3. So.
You think you can put it up?
Yeah, no, I just posted it too.
Yeah, in the assignment.
I'll give it to them. Yeah, I just posted on mine too. So, okay. My name is Matt too, by the way, just so you guys know. I don't have to print it out twice. But all right, so the Enlightenment was a late 17th century, early 18th century movement, which was characterized by rationalist thought as opposed to sort of empiricist thought, like Hume, but it's not necessarily one. The idea of like rational thought had emphasis on the capacity for human reason as a motive for achieving progress. So, just to go through this pretty quickly, some of the important precursors to Enlightenment were the discovery of the New World, the Renaissance, rediscovery of Roman and Greek thought, humanism, and the Protestant Reformation. And all of these things sort of came together to form almost like an intellectual system that challenged the way that Europe currently approached the world.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the important contents of Enlightenment, the first was human dignity, as someone mentioned before, that sort of backed behind the UN Charter that every person sort of has human dignity and certain rights based on the fact that they're human. Some religious aspects of Enlightenment, they sort of began to question traditional church teaching, and this led to two sort of analyses of political types of government. One was liberalism, which, based on the human dignity that each person had certain rights, it was the role of the state to protect those rights. And the other type of government was absolutism, like a monarchy, or I guess you almost think of like a totalitarian state now, where it's the government for the people, but they're not really that involved with it, and there's someone, I guess, at the head, like, as a monarch or a president or someone who just has almost complete power. Let's see. Yeah, because the Enlightenment focused largely on rational thought, education therefore took on a more, I guess, involved role in their lives. So that was important. And then there were two economic systems at the time: mercantilism, which is almost like a zero-sum game where the state would impose certain sanctions or incentives that would sort of benefit their state interest as opposed to world interest. And then there was free trade, which postulated that the individual interest is the base of general welfare. Opponents of free trade demand economic liberty and unlimited capitalism. So, why the Enlightenment is important to Latin America is because it was a European movement that occurred right before or about the same time as colonialism, and so therefore the ideas of the Europeans came over to Latin America. So it's pretty evident that there was a lot of absolutism in Latin America through the monarchs and the other rulers there, because the people that lived there, that were colonized, didn't have much of a say. So, yeah, some of the Enlightenment strategies.
What are the most important topics in Latin America?
In Latin America?
Of the Enlightenment. Mm-hmm. The most important topics.
The ones I had down here were educational reform, economic reform, social reform, and
yeah,
just sort of how Europe brought their ideas to Latin America, in the sense that 100 years before then, they were people that sort of lived largely agrarian societies, and now you had the institutionalization of more complex systems of government, like monarchies, that were more global.
And do you see relations, ties between these topics and the modern reforms in Latin America?
I think it's important because I would say these reforms were the